I sell to families. It'll be real quick. I sell to individual people. I don't sell to grocery stores. I don't sell to restaurants. I don't sell to food hubs. Nobody. I sell to people.
Michael Bell in the house. Long overdue to the podcast. I apologize for not having you on about 5 years ago.
That's all right. You get busy. I understand.
I knew you were around, so I wasn't too worried about it. Also in the studio is my friend Carrie Daniel.
Hi.
Carrie's customer service for us and also assists with a lot of media, as you've seen of late. I wanted her here. When I had my farm here, she was like my number one customer. And so it's just, she's kind of always been around. And I thought she might give some questions to you as far as what a customer looks for in this conversation. But we're talking about Dallas Half Acre Farm, just outside of Dallas.
So it's a small, it's actually less than a half acre. It's a 0.37 acres. So it's about 7 miles from downtown Dallas off of Interstate 20. And it's at the end of a residential street where...
A very protective residential street.
Yes. It's literally just one random street with about 20 houses down each side of the street. And what happened was they quit building houses. And then they left 6 vacant lots they never did anything with. No idea why. The houses have got to be 30 or 40 years old. So I purchased the lot, one of the lots there, and started my farm. I mean, what makes it great is it's halfway between my house and my school. So I go at 4:30 in the morning. I go to the farm. I work till 6:30 in the morning, 6:45, and then I go to school. I'm a full-time teacher. So and then on the way back home, if I need to stop by for a few minutes, it's not out of the way. It's literally 2 minutes off of Interstate 20. So the situation and the place that it's at is actually perfect. As far as crops, I grow, normal seasonal stuff that you would grow in a garden, just bigger scale, more production. A lot of people that don't know me that I sell to, like we're not friends, it's the first few times they buy from me or whatever, they call me the salad guy, because I always have salad almost year round. And then whatever else is in season is what else they get with the salad. But like I said, it's just seasonal vegetables, nothing fancy. I only usually do 6 or 7 crops per season, keep it real simple. And it's just the normal stuff that Texas people would eat. In my opinion, it's just grown better, healthier, completely organic. I don't use anything. Only fertilizers I use is basically worm castings that I get from a guy down south at the Magic Worm Ranch. By far the best worm castings I've ever used. So I said, I'm going to see what happens if I just use these. And I've had great production since, so I don't even use any other type of fertilizers.
When we first met, 5-6 years ago. Like, it's just all a blur at this point.
Yeah, it's been at least 6 because I moved in 5 years ago, and I knew you before I moved.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's where I was trying to get to is the move. I think it's a very unique thing that the entire operation got moved at some point. Started, if I remember correctly, it was a side yard to a church. Is that right?
No, it was another half acre lot in South Dallas, and what involved the church was it was backed up. The lot was backed up to the church,
right?
And I didn't have running water. That apparently is my shtick, is I'm not allowed to have running water at my farm. But at the time, it didn't have running water, and I happened to be working one day, and I saw the preacher of this church on top of the roof. And he's like an 80-year-old man on top of the roof, and I was like, let me go see if he needs some help. So I went over there, helped him. We hit it off. Real nice guy. And as I was walking back to my farm when we were done, I noticed he had a water spigot hanging out the back of his church. It's
a miracle.
Yeah, act of God. And it was facing my farm. And I sat there. I was like, I'm not going to say anything right now. So a couple of days later, I called him again, and I said, hey, if I pay your water bill, because he's a church, so it's not like they shower and flush the toilet 1,000 times a day or anything. I knew it just had to be the minimum amount.
Depends on what the potluck is, right?
Right. It was a small church. I think I never saw more than 20 or 30 cars there. So I told him, I was like, if I pay your water bill every month, can I use your water? And just to know I'll be upfront and honest, I'll give you $200 cash right now. That'll pay at least 2 months of it. And he goes, well, I don't see why that's a problem. So that's how I watered my first farm. And I have no idea when we got off on that story of watering my farm.
Well, because I think along the course of this podcast, I think it's going to go to your determination and the grit that you've shown the entire time I've known you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So anyway, we just
leave that in.
We let's see, where was I? Oh, the farm. So like I'm a full-time teacher. So I got a new job. I taught in Duncanville, which was a couple miles from my original farm. And then the job come open in Mesquite, and it was a better pay grade, less kids. My wife worked at the same school, and it was closer to home. I thought I'd be stupid not to take this job. So I took the job, and then that night I looked at my wife and I said, what about my farm? Because it's all the way in Duncanville, and I can't drive 25 miles one way.
Because you're there every morning.
Oh, every day. Yeah, every morning. I went every morning before school. And I knew I couldn't go over there, do what I needed to do, and get all the way back to Mesquite every day. So I said, I'm just going to sell it and see if I can find some property around here. So I put it up for sale. It sold real fast. I made a pretty good profit on the land. And then I called my dad and said, hey, can I borrow a big trailer, pile everything that I have? You know, I had the high tunnels and just normal farm stuff. Can I pile it on the trailer and haul it back to Bowie with you where my parents live until I find a new place? He said, of course. And literally the next day he brought the trailer down, and we spent 3 days taking all the tunnels down, the plastic off, everything, loaded it up and hauled it to Bowie on a 40-foot trailer. And it stayed there until I bought my new property and brought it all back down here again.
So as you're looking for land, what were some of the parameters you wanted to find? And then I want to get into like developing the land that had been set dormant for 30 years?
Probably
that was probably the dumping ground for construction crews along the way.
Yeah. So my parameters were, first thing was price. I mean, I'm looking for land off of Interstate 20, which is one of the busiest interstates probably in the South. So I knew land was going to be hard to find. I was looking for land to lease. I was looking for somebody that had a big backyard that I could just throw a tunnel up until I found something. And I called this lady that I knew that sold real estate, and I said, this is what I'm looking for. And she goes, okay, I'll do some looking. And she called me back in an hour, and she goes, this is exactly what you were looking for. Here's the address. I drove over there, looked at it, called her back. I said, I'll take it. I'll bring you the money tomorrow. And she said, okay. So we met at the title office like 3 or 4 days later, closed on it, and it was mine.
And I think the first time I ever went to the farm, the neighbors came out. Who am I? What am I doing here?
Yeah, it's so the neighborhood's amazing. If you drive down it, you might not think so. It's a very old neighborhood. The houses are probably 40, 50 years old. Some of them are siding houses, some of them are brick houses. Some of them's got 7 cars in the driveway.
We're talking late 80s, early 90s Dallas, just
yeah,
sprawl at its finest.
Yep. But the people are great. Like you said, I get a phone call from somebody every single time that I know that someone has been there, they've called. Hey, there's a black Dodge over there. Is it supposed to be there? Yes, sir. It's my buddy. He's dropping something off for me. Or, yeah, that's another friend of mine. I give them fresh stuff all the time. If I harvest too much, I'll go throw it on their porches or whatever. The thing about this land, just like the other property, was I don't have running water on this land either. When I went to buy it, I called the city of Dallas and I said, can I get water? And so they did all their figuring, like, oh yeah, you can get water. That's not a problem. I said, okay, great. So as soon as I closed on the land, I called them back. And I was like, I need to get water. Let me know what the process is. And a couple of days later, they call me back. I'm like, okay, it'll be $28,000. And I said, you said I could get water. And she said, yes, sir. You can get it for $28,000.
Didn't tell you how much.
And I said, well, explain the numbers to me. And she goes, well, it's $100 a running foot for the 4-inch main at 200 feet from where the last house is. It's 200 feet to where my property begins. So that's $20,000 right there for the 4-inch main alone. And then they put in $8,000 for the meter, and which I was expecting it to be $8,000 or $9,000. I was ready for that. I wasn't ready for $28,000. So I don't have water. I
still don't have water.
Still don't have water, but by God, I made it work. I mean, I've got a system now. I built rain catchments. I've got a massive one. It's kind of on the neighbor's property, but he lives in Michigan and doesn't know it. And if he came and threw a fit, I could have it torn down in, an hour or so. But it's 45 feet long, 12 feet wide, and it's made with pallets and 2x4s and 2x6s. It's not pretty, and it's got sheet iron on top of it. And when it rains, it drains into a gutter that fills up 55-gallon barrels. From there, I pump it to my 250-gallon water totes, which is what I water out of from there. And then
and this is all gravity fed at this point once they're in the gallons. Is that correct? Or the 55 gallons?
Yeah, well, it feeds into a water pump.
Got it.
Yeah. Which was a problem because I put the spigots too low and there wasn't enough gravity to force the water out. So lesson learned, I scooted it up about 6 inches.
So what? And I'm bringing all this up because you found out about the water after the fact because you didn't know to ask the right questions because cities don't want to be extremely forthright with the situation.
Okay, so you've been doing that for 5 years. You've not had water at your farm for 5 years.
So I've never had water at my farm for 8 years.
Okay.
But the farm I'm currently at now, I've been there for 5 years. Okay. And that's where I've got the water catchment. And then I also have a tough shed.
Tell you, man,
that is like a huge testament.
And then I have a tough shed that I bought. I told my wife it was for storage, but it's really my man cave. Me and my buddy goes out there and we spend the night all the time and just peace and quiet. We both got kids, so we just go for peace and quiet. But
I get it.
So I recently just put a porch, 4-foot porch.
You got something to say? Go ahead and say it.
I was going to say, no, she definitely knows that.
And she's okay with it?
She knows it.
Yeah, probably.
Get out of here.
We're not that dumb.
So I put a 4-foot porch all the way around it, which catches surprisingly a lot of rainwater too. So between those two water catchments, and then I'll haul water when I have to.
How are you hauling water?
5-gallon buckets that turn over, like the what do you call the water buckets over there that you flip up on top of a dispenser? Yeah, I've got 20 of those, so I can haul 100 gallons at a time.
And see, this is just one of the many reasons I love you so much. And look, bound and determined to get this done. You've got it done. You seem completely pleased with it at this point. I think it's a great narrative. I mean, I know that we're going to get into it a little bit later, but you've picked up quite a bit of press. I know you spoke a lot in the last year. And it's that kind of, this is going to happen come hell or high water attitude that we really like. I mean, you want to talk about bootstrap farming? This is a perfect example of making sure you get it done. Back to the land itself, now that we've covered the water issue, when you take over a piece of property that's just set dormant for so long, we're talking hard pan. I'm sure that people dumped on that years over years, if they still, probably do on time to time, if they're like my road. What kind of clearing out and trash removal did you have to do?
So it's funny because my farm that I bought originally in Duncanville was a dump site for construction people. Like literally there was bathrooms. There was a toilet, a vanity, a shower curtain rods, everything on that other farm. And I just hauled it off piece by piece as I cleared it. But when I moved to this new farm, to my new property, it was clean. It was pretty clean. I was surprised,
Well, it also seems like the kind of neighborhood that's not going to put up with people coming and junking it.
Yeah, and there's no outlet. So people don't even know that's down there. It's a cul-de-sac dead end street. So whereas the other street, you knew it was there. So people pulling at 3 a.m. and dump, no problem. But so I didn't have a whole lot of trash. What sucked the most was the soil. And, as a farmer, you should always check the soil. And I did.
And apparently the water.
Well, I'm going to bring up old shit.
Real, it's always like, well, me and the stuff we do with Drew Dimmler, it's like anytime we've ever had a joke on film, I've got it and use it frequently. It's like nothing ever escapes. It's all on the hard drives. Watch out.
Yep. So check the water, which I did, just not completely. And then the soil was okay. The first 2 inches, which is all I dug. And then I got to digging after a rain a few weeks after I bought it. And it was this complete clay, solid clay. And I was like, okay, I'll mend it. I'll throw in some compost. We'll mix it up, broad fork it, cover crop it. So I spent 6 months trying to get that done, and it just wouldn't. I planted some tomatoes one year, and I always plant my tomatoes real deep, and they drown because and it was completely dry on top, but they just kept looking bad. They yellow, wilted all the time, and they just would not perk up. Well, come to find out, they were drowning the entire time, just sitting in water. So I said, what do I do? I had no idea what to do. So I thought and thought. I was like, screw it. I'll just raise bed till I figure something else out. So I went to the Lowe's, bought some 1x6s. Note to anyone that wants to do this, not fence panels. 1x6s are not fence panels. They actually make a 1x6, and they work great. A little expensive, but I've had those beds now for 6 years going on in March, spring break, and they're still good. They haven't. Wasn't pressure treated, and they're still in good shape. So it worked so well that first season with one tunnel. I said, screw it, I'll just do it this way. And everything's worked well with doing the raised beds, sitting on top of clay, and no issues at all. I don't plant my tomatoes deep anymore. I lay them down flat and curl them up at the end. That's a trick I found that works really well. But other than that, I have no issues. The tomato trick? So if you're a gardener, you've probably always heard bury your tomatoes deep because all those little hairs turn into roots and everything. Well, I obviously couldn't do it deep, so I lay them down. And I have massive, probably 2-foot tall tomato plants when I transplant because I start them December 26th. That's what I'll do every year. Kids go play.
I saw the thread.
Wife go away. We've been together for like 4 days straight because of the holidays. So I go out to my tough shed. Yeah, we're done. So I plant tomatoes, and then I usually transplant around spring break depending on the 2-week forecast. So that's a good 10 weeks. So they're a good 2 foot tall. So anyway, I strip off all the branches and I just leave the head, of the tomato plant and then lay it down. And then I'll usually get a sticks or rocks or just dirt, and it just curls up.
Right.
And then
just like it would if you're leaning and lowering the curl.
Yeah. And it just goes for the sun. And then all those root hairs that you would turn into roots if you planted it deep still turn into roots. They're just 6 inches underneath the ground instead of 2 feet.
Talking just indeterminates at this point.
Yeah, that's all I grow.
Right on.
Yeah, or indeterminate sun golds. But and it works out great. So like I'll have a root ball here, and a foot later is where the plant, 1.5 feet is where it starts to curl up, and all that becomes roots, which is better for nutrient absorption, water absorption. It actually works out really well. But other than that, I haven't. And then I take that back. The only other crop that I had an issue with was carrots because they obviously need more than 6 inches. So I shelled out some cash and bought 2x12s. So I have 130-foot bed of carrots that I planted 10,000 carrots this year, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not for a commercial grower. But I'm hoping next year to replace some of the 6-inch tall beds with another 130-foot bed for carrots.
Doing the jang on that?
No, because when you do raised beds, I had a jang and sold it because I couldn't use it. Because if you get the 12 or 14 or 20-foot long boards, they warp. They start to warp. So I found if you buy the 8-footers and just screw them every 8 feet, you know what I'm talking about? I'm trying to explain so people would understand it. But every 8 feet, you tie them together in the middle is great, and it keeps the board straight, but you can't run a jang because it hits that middle board every 8 feet.
Right.
And the jang's 4 foot long. So it didn't work for me, so I hand seed them.
Awesome.
My 7-year-old also helps me. She has little hands, so that helps.
That is
the problem is she's also 7, and after 5 minutes, she wants to go play with the chickens or quails or something. So I get her for 5 minutes, and then she plays for 20, and I get her for 5 more.
Making those good memories, man.
I hope so. That was the biggest thing with the land was the soil. It was solid clay, but like I said, I fixed it. I still cover crop like crazy, and I know it's helping me. It's just going to take a long, long time.
Knowing what you know now, would you still bought that same land?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm making it work just fine. I mean, yes, there's some drawbacks, but the location and the price couldn't be beat. I mean, it's already doubled in price, which
and you have quite a bit of room to expand, if I remember correctly.
Yes. So I don't have any room to expand as for more tunnels or beds, but I'm only using exactly half of my tunnel and bed space right now, and the other half is always cover cropped. So like right now, half of my farm is in production, and the other half is cover cropped because I don't have enough time to run the whole farm all at one time. So basically, it's weird when I say that because I feel like I'm wasting space, but my whole farm is geared for May 31st of 2031. I'm sorry, of 2030, which is when I retire from teaching. So I want to set everything up, make everything as perfect as possible. So on June 1st, when I'm done teaching forever and will never step in school again, I will.
You sound like you're excited about this.
You have no idea. There's no one more excited for anything 6 years
my
from
wife
now.
is counting down the milliseconds for her school retirement. So
Yep.
I get it.
Yep. So I'm just excited because my farm is pretty much ready to go. And if something ever happens, I get fired for some reason, screw you. I'll go farm. Like I'm ready to go. Like all I gotta do is flip the switch and go. Which in today's age with teachers, you never know when you're going to say the wrong thing or somebody's going to say something about you, or there's just no job security in teaching anymore. So if it happens to me, so be it. Screw you. I'm ready to go farm full time.
I like it. Let's talk about your market. Where are we selling to?
I sell to families. It'll be real quick. I sell to individual people. I don't sell to grocery stores. I don't sell to restaurants. I don't sell to food hubs. Nobody. I sell to people.
Is this getting delivered? Are they picking it up?
So I deliver, and this is where I get so much pushback from people until they hear my rationale for it. So I live in Forney. I know it's called Dallas Half Acre Farm, and the farm's in Dallas, but I live 8 minutes away in a town called Forney, which used to be 10,000 people. Well, now it's 120, 130,000, and they're building houses, and people are moving in from all over the country. Literally, my neighbor come from New York. So they're building subdivisions out the wazoo. Like there's so many subdivisions going up all over. So I live in a 600 home subdivision, and they all have Facebook pages. Trash is running late today. Who ran the stop sign? All that nonsense. But it's also the perfect marketing tool. Because one day I had some extra salad to my normal customers. I was like, let's just see what happens. I think I had like 6 extra bags that I had harvested that morning. And I posted on there. And within 30 minutes, I had 30 orders. Oh, I want a bag. And all I did was post a picture like I post on Instagram. Just my lettuce beds are very pretty. They're red and green, and they're just pretty. And I put organic salad mix for sale. I've got some radishes and beets and a few other things. If you're interested, shoot me a DM. I had 30 DMs in, less than an hour. Holy crap. Like I had no idea it was going to be like this. So I started DMing people, and they were so excited. They're like, I'm so tired of buying that trash at the store. I said, well, I told them how much it was, and I was expecting a few of them to push back. Well, that's kind of high or whatever. I guess just because I'm a little scared. Like I'd never want to be that guy that's trying to be like a millionaire. Like I don't want to be too high on my produce. So I was always worried about telling people how much it cost. And nobody balked. Nobody complained. Everyone was like, that's great. Do you deliver? Do I need to come and pick it up? And I was thinking, why would I have them? Why do I want to wait on somebody else to come and get it? When my entire neighborhood, I could walk on, walk
So
around.
You're just condensing it just to that immediate neighborhood.
So I do that with my neighborhood. And then since I'm a teacher, I also sell to like 4 schools, all that are within 5 miles of my school. And there's just like 6 people at this school, 5 people at this school. I've got a high school that I sell to that's got like 12. And I have 2 lists. It's week A and week B. And week A is all these people, and week B is all these people. And I've got like 6 or 7 vegetarians that get it every week. I love vegetarians. Vegetarians are the greatest thing in the world for me because they eat nothing but vegetables. So,
and they're vocal about.
Oh, and they're proud of it. Oh, yeah, they're proud of it. So, are you vegetarian?
I'm a lazy vegetarian.
So vegetarian adjacent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was for a while,
Uh-huh.
but I've like loosened up that I'll eat meat. I prefer not to, but
Depends on where we go.
depends on where we are. If we're somewhere with a really good cheeseburger, I'm going to have a cheeseburger.
We just become best friends.
Yay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll go to a
she
steakhouse.
She is a fan of good friend.
I'll go to a steakhouse and order a cheeseburger. I like steaks, but I'm not paying for a steak when I could do a cheeseburger and be just as satisfied.
So you said something a minute ago that caught my attention in that kind of little, sometimes, especially in the beginning, worried about the price and this, that, and the other. Given the story that you told us, the hauling of the water, all the work that it took to get there, what's for you the value disconnect in what you do and able to bring into such a tailored market of friends and family at this point, not friends and family in the beginning, but people that were so willing to go out of their way to purchase your stuff, knowing that they didn't balk about price, you probably could have went up 50% easy. Do you still feel that same way about the price?
I'm gonna have to go up probably the next month or so. And I hate doing it, but seed cost has gotten higher. My compost, everything's gone up. We all know that.
Let me ask you this. When's the
Okay.
last time you went to the store and bought lettuce?
Years.
Should probably do that, because then you'd see what everybody's having to deal with. And even if your prices are 20% higher at the stores, the quality is going to be 400 or 500 times the value. And if you're selling to vegetarians that really value what that is. So this is why I'm glad Carrie's here, is because I swear to God, you were the first person to sign up for the salad club, and you were with me from the beginning to the end. Every event I ever did, anything we ever did, we had pop-ups at your yoga studio from the food truck. So like, you have an ideal clientele sitting right here. What are your thoughts?
Well, I feel like that's a running theme for like not just farmers, but like any kind of like entrepreneur. Like when you're doing your own thing, you never see your own value. Like, because it's the same thing at the yoga studio. Like, I really don't want to charge. Like, I want to do this, but you know, you have to.
Right.
And so it's really hard to like find your own value. And so I think that's a running theme for anybody who's doing this kind of thing. Like,
I think any new business at all, no matter what the business is, when you're selling a product, your first worry, well, my first worry was, can I grow it, or do I have enough product? And two is the price point. And, you know, I struggle with those two things all the time. I feel very comfortable now listening to everyone's feedback and how much they hate grocery stores, because when it hit 109 this past summer,
Well, because you're throwing half of it away.
yeah,
You're still paying way less, paying more from you because it's usable.
yeah, it lasts longer in the fridge. And I learned that this summer when it was 109 and I couldn't grow lettuce. Like, I just tapped out. Like, I'm done trying. It went bitter. And I texted everybody and like, okay, cool. I understand, you know, let me know when it's back in stock. And it was a good 6 or 7 weeks before it cooled off enough for me to start selling again, growing and selling. And every single person was like, thank God I cannot do that slimy beep, 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 beep
Raise it up.
stuff from the
It's
store
look,
anymore.
And you're not exclusive to this whole line of talk. I think if you are in a room filled with 500 Matchbox cars and a friend came in and liked one, you'd easily hand that over, not even think about it. And you're surrounded by lettuce all the time. So there's an inherent devalue to the lettuce because you're always around it.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
But for somebody that has no lettuce or has horrible lettuce, it's still very much worth it.
And I always, and when I debate with myself, I always say, look, if one person gets mad and says, no, I'm not paying that for it, okay, I've got 30 people on a waiting list. Like,
Please.
yeah.
Because look, here's the thing. Let's say you raise prices and you lose, you won't, but let's say you lose 10%. The other people is going to make up for that deficit that you have.
I feel like one thing of like with your salads, yeah, it definitely could have gone somewhere and paid cheaper for them, but you've got the added value also of you're delivering, you're bringing that food to my home. And
Well,
so
when I started the delivery thing, I was thinking for some reason like big scale of things, and Amazon had just bought Whole Foods, so Amazon was start delivering food. Walmart was starting to deliver, and I know I'll never be at that scale, but I'm like, I have to make sure I don't lose customers because they would rather order it online and have it delivered, because people are getting lazier every single day.
Yeah, but they're
So-
not ordering from folks like you.
Well, yeah, I know, but I just wanted to. That's one reason why I've made my model very concentrated into one area, and I still get new customers in my neighborhood because I'll go drop it off.
Well, just for your scale and for, listen, what you want to do. And that's, some people are listening to this thinking you're insane. I'm one of them often. But it's one of those things where people are constantly comparing. Like, I see it all the time. How big is your high tunnel? It doesn't matter how big your high tunnel is because that's his. Yours is yours. You're going to have to do your own thing. And to sit here and say that you're right or wrong on the way you farm, it works for you. And it works for your customers clearly. And it works for your goals as a husband, as somebody that has a second job, as a father. All this stuff is getting balanced out for you and for what you need to do. So, like, I don't think you'll ever run out of customers You don't want to be Amazon. You don't want to be Walmart.
Right. No, and I completely agree.
And to some degree, I'm going to chime in real quick. And we just took you out to Carl's, who we're going to do a bunch of stuff with tonight. Like, you don't want to be him either.
I don't know.
It's pretty awesome.
That's a pretty awesome farm.
But
yeah, I understand what you're
given
saying.
the space constraints, can you learn from him? Absolutely. Should you and everybody else go visit other farms and see what there is to see? For sure. It needs to be. That's what I want for 2024 is I want more farmers visiting other farmers.
Absolutely.
But you can take the lessons that you get from it, but you're never going to equally make it across the board because everything's different for every person.
You want to take small things, small nuggets, but never change your whole operation just to be like somebody else's. I see farms all the time on Instagram. I mean, that's all I do is just look at farms on Instagram. I'm like, God, that's so awesome. I could never do it that way, but it's still an awesome farm.
Well, it's nice to have a North Star. It's nice to see, A, that you're not alone in this, B, that there's an endless supply of customers and there's an endless supply of doing things different or better or whatever the case may be. But it's up to you to decide what that right is for you.
And I think the biggest thing in that statement you just made was endless supply of customers. People do not understand how few customers it takes to make good money. I mean, 100 customers a year, like if I have 100 customers that I sell to, maybe not every week, but a pretty constant supply, I make what I consider a lot of money for a side job. And when I retire, that's
and that's some
plenty of money.
self-awareness that you have. This, for right now, this is a side job. And you're building it up and you're developing your systems. Carrie's part of the lunch club, which we did on Wednesdays. And then we had 2 days to get ready for the farmer's market. And we did it all again with some variances. And then once a quarter, we would do a pop-up either at my farm or at your place. It's just diversifying that income stream. And we had the excess to do that. And we had the 2 commercial kitchens to do it. But it just goes to show I can do it. You can do it. All the other people that we hang out with, they're all who's doing it exactly the same as somebody else? Nobody.
Mm-mm. There's several farms in Dallas. There's one in Granbury by a young guy named Jordan called Fruitful Farms. And if you ever get a chance to talk to him, you should visit with him. He's an awesome guy. Young kid. I say kid. He's like 23, maybe 24.
Yeah, if you're under 40, you're a kid.
Yeah, especially when I'm over 40, so you're definitely a kid. But I think his main source of selling is at a grocery store. He doesn't sell to the grocery store. He sells at the grocery store with a table and produce. I'm not. It's not a grocery store. It's some sort of organic mart of some sort. But anyway, and he makes a killing. And he goes gorgeous stuff.
And the store probably likes him there. It's not a competition because they're bringing customers that may not even went to that store. Hey, I'm here. I'm going to go get the X, Y, and Z.
Yep. And it's one table, and he goes 3 or 4 times a week. I'm pretty sure. He's always posting, hey, I'm at the mart today. Come by and see me. And he's got this beautiful table of stuff that he harvested that morning. He does a great job. And then I've got another buddy in San Antonio down at Clark's Greens, and he kills it at farmers markets. And then he's got some restaurants that he sells to. Neither one of those top outlets, though, work for me. Like, I can't do a farmer's market, nor do I want to. I like harvesting every day and delivering to different sets of people every day. It takes me 20 minutes to deliver, to 5 or 6 people every single night.
Do you think once you retire from teaching, are you going to change that, or are you going to keep going that way?
I'm going to keep going that way. It's just too easy. And I've already got everything set up. I'll just make it bigger. Like, I'll just expand. So instead of just doing my neighborhood and, a few other people close to me, there's a massive neighborhood on the other side of 80 from where I live that's pretty high end. Houses start at $500,000. I'm going to, it sounds funny when I say it, but I'm going to bombard that neighborhood. That's my next
And look,
location.
All it's going to take is for 2 or 3 people that there's connectors out there, right? Like somebody within the community that knows everybody. Real estate agents, secretaries at a busy place, they all are so interconnected, and that's who people cluster and follow around. And all it takes is a handful of those people, and that one will turn you on to 10.
That's right.
So bombard it once, but I think you're just going to have to do it once or twice.
You're only going to have to. You've got to get in there with 3 or 4 people, and then they post on their on the Facebook page, man, this salad is great. It's fresh. I got it this morning. And he's also got tomatoes and zucchini. Here's his name, and I'll get 20 people. without a doubt. Like, it's just one of those things I can't do it now because I can't produce that much. But I know when I retire and I haven't, have 40-hour weeks or 50-hour weeks, whatever I decide to work, I'll sell everything that I can grow.
All right. Well, now I want to get to why I really wanted to have you here. The farm is fascinating. We could talk about that all day long, but I think at this point, I'm kind of done talking about, hey, what's your farm? And like, I'm done with farm tours as far as what I can give you on video, right? And so this year, I'm really wanting to focus on things that I think we can talk about that are really going to push ag out to where I think it needs to be, in my own little silly opinion. What do I know? But every time I've been to an event, Michael Bell is there. Every time I have sent out a call that we're going to have something going on or somebody needs help, you've been there. Every time I've gone somewhere, you've beat me to the punch. I mean, you are very, very active in the growing community. We asked on social if anybody had any questions. We got some questions, but a lot of people were just talking about how awesome you are. And so you heard me talk about this in the JM interview that you listened to a little bit ago.
By the way, if you haven't listened to that podcast, that interview, go listen to it. I've listened to everything JM's done for 10 years, probably 10 times each, just because I put it on when I work. And that's the best JM interview I've listened to. And it's not because of it's you. It's just, it was just a great interview. So if you haven't listened to it and you love this type of talk, go listen to it.
I appreciate that.
It was great.
Thank you very much.
I hate giving you a compliment.
I know.
It was good.
Get him that $100 bill. But in that, we talked about the need for farmers to realize that, look, we're a feel-good story a lot of times, and media seeks you out sometimes, and you've gotten a lot of press, and I think you've really stepped to the plate to be that voice. And we talked about this earlier, that if you speak about your farm to the media or to the radio or to some of these luncheons that you've been to and the dinners that you've talked about, particularly up in, the McKinney area and all the people we hang out with up there, you're representing not only your farm, but you're representing everybody else. In that, if you get sideways, you may turn somebody off that everybody that farms is just a loon, and we are. And we span the lunacy across the board. But I think you've really done a good job in representing, again, not only yourself, but farming in general. And I would like to discuss how you're approaching being a voice, especially regionally for all of us.
Yeah, so...
No pressure.
No, actually, it's not at all, because I come from I played basketball from the time I was 7 to the time I was 22. I played in college all the way through. So I've always been a very big team sports guy. And you always hear your coach, especially in junior and high school, don't go in McDonald's and act like an idiot when we're getting, or getting dinner after the game and driving home, because we drove 2 hours to a game because I grew up in a small town. So that was just impounded in my head, just pounded in there. So I always thought about it the same way. And it's funny that you say that now, because that's really the way I thought about it.
Sports people, they get media training for these guys that all of a sudden all they've known is they're a great athlete their whole life, and now 100 cameras are at you. You have to go through some type of, this is what you say, this is how you do. And that's why you have all these generic answers, which you're not doing, but it goes to the point where you just can't step into this and not be aware that this is something that could happen.
Right. No, you're exactly right. So when I had a couple articles go viral on Google and Yahoo and stuff that some people wrote, and it was really cool. Loved it. Just because it doesn't help my farm, because I can't produce anymore.
Right.
So I got nothing out of it other than, hey, honey, look, I'm on Google. She didn't care, but
take out the trash.
I thought it was cool. My mom thought it was really cool. But so when that happened, I thought, I can do this one or two ways. I can make this about me, my farm, me, or I can make it about small farms and local growing.
And it's a hard balance, because it's no different than this. We have to talk about our experiences, because that's why we're here. But at the same time, we have to, how are we going to equate this so anybody listening could go, well, this is right for my hydroponics place. This is right for my own backyard that I'm just feeding my family.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about in this company, who are we trying to serve? And it's a span of folks. And so trying to teach these universal truths across the board, no matter if you're growing one tomato plant or 5,000, it's tricky.
Yeah. So yeah, you're exactly right. So when I started getting approached to talk and stuff, I thought to myself, I can do this several ways. And I literally made a list in my head of, I want to promote local farms. Like, I want to try to get people to go buy from local farms, and I want people to more importantly know they can go farm, because I think there's enough people to buy from local farms. I just don't know if there's enough people growing. Obviously, I know there's not enough people growing for people to buy local. So that was my real big push, was, hey, you can do this. You can start with one 50-foot tunnel and have another job, and you can make your money from this job while you grow your farm business. And that's what I really pushed, and it's done really well. I've had several 30 or 40 people that's reached out and said, hey, I heard your interview on this podcast or this podcast, because I never turned down a podcast invite. I did one with a marijuana growing.
No, I thought I was special.
Yeah. You're special in other ways. But I mean, I literally did an hour interview with an Instagram page that's got thousands of followers, and they're a marijuana growing, because I think they're in Oklahoma and Colorado. I don't care. Like, I don't care. I'll talk. I mean, it's still growing stuff. But so yeah, I mean, I appreciate the that you see that I try to push local growing in a positive way, because I want more people to do it. That's my biggest goal, is get more people to grow. And it's not dorky. Okay, it is. Some people think it's dorky, but when they look at me, they might not see a big dork growing plants. I hope I give off more than just the stigma that kind of goes with farming. Hillbilly with overalls and a straw hat.
That'd be a good look for you.
Well, I might have to try it one day, but that was a stigma I was hoping to get away from. Like, I don't want people thinking that to be a farmer you have to have this, or you have to have a big tractor, and you got to have all this land. You can grow so much food on less than a half acre.
Well, I think you made a good point in that there is not enough people growing. There's never going to be enough people growing.
It frustrates me to no end. I go in Sprouts with my wife or Whole Foods or whatever to pick up usually wine. Apparently Sprouts and Whole Foods has better wine than other stores. But and I always go through the produce section. Like, she goes and looks at the wine, I go through the produce, and I'll just pick up a bunch of beets or a thing of radishes, and they're grown in freaking Mexico. They're being imported from Mexico, and I'm like, why are we importing beets and radishes from Mexico when I grow them almost year round?
Well, and it's no fun buying beets in August. Yeah. It's a seasonal product.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing, is customers got to learn what seasonal is. Like, they can't. I mean, everybody loves a good tomato in December or January, but they also have to understand that's not a very good tomato.
They can totally get that from somebody else, but it's carrot season, or it's beet season, or it's broccoli season for you.
So when we're talking about the seasonal aspect of it, we had juices for a while at our coffee shop, and we had a local farmer who would provide us with our kale. And during the season when she had kale, everybody would talk about how much they loved the green goddess. But then when the grower couldn't get kale anymore, and we had to go to a local grocery store, like, people would notice the difference and be like, hey, the green goddess tastes a little off today. Like, what's going on? And once we kind of like started educating them and letting them know the difference, like, they would get really excited when we would post, hey, our local farmer has her kale again. And so I think it's just like a educational, and like, people have to experience it before they understand that.
No, I completely agree. Carrots are a big thing for me in the spring, because when you plant them in the fall and they overwinter, they get so much sweeter. And I had people, the first time I started selling carrots to people a couple years ago, they would literally text me, why are these carrots so much better than the store? So I'd explain them. Cold makes them produce more sugar, blah, 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 blah. So now every fall, like, you planting carrots? I want carrots every week until you run out.
Recently, in the other Market Gardener podcast that we just released, Carl and I were talking about what would I do different. And there's many things that I would do. Like, if I had to start farming again for a living, one of the ideas is just carrots. That's it. Even here. And just have such an operation that we could cold store them and overwinter them and turn them into added value products and stuff like that. But look at any farmer's market you go to, carrots, always the first thing to sell out. Nobody has enough. I don't know why we're not dedicating more space to carrots because it's so much better than what you can get.
I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
And excuse my language, because they're a bitch to grow.
Because you're not using that jang, man.
I hate carrots. No, it's not. Because the reason why I don't grow them in Texas is so as much as I probably could. Well, it's also because I don't have water. But
that might, yeah. I mean,
they are such a pain in the ass to germinate.
Yeah.
I mean, because like right now you can germinate them, but then they're not going to be ready till April.
Right.
But like in the fall, when I like to grow them, so they get overwintered and they get that good.
So you're upset that they're not germinating to your schedule?
Yes. Like what this? I need these things to germinate. But if I had more water, or if it was cooler in like September, I would grow a lot more carrots. And I think that's why a lot of growers don't grow as many carrots, is because there's only a certain window that you can grow them, that you can germinate them, and still get decent.
Which is
growth.
why they're so much better grown locally.
I know how I'm going to do it next year as opposed to the way I did it this year. But, and you said everyone grow carrots. So here's a niche for people that some farmer out there should take this and run with it, is baby food. Is anything that you can mash up into baby food, carrots, or is like bread and butter, peas, English peas, sweet peas, I don't know, sugar snaps, those, radishes, if you can get a baby to eat a radish, great job parenting. But I have so many parents that, women that are like, hey, I need these for my kids, for my babies. And because they mash
You just have to get new customers every 18 months.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, there's plenty of babies being born right now. But for some reason, that makes me feel so good as a farmer that a mom is texting me, hey, I need carrots for my baby, because I know they're so much healthier than what they're getting at the grocery store.
It's the ultimate endorsement.
It's 1,000% the best.
Which that's what needs to be on your flyer for this next neighborhood is, can you send me that I can use?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next time somebody says, I need this for my baby, say, can I use this for my next marketing
Screenshot
material?
it and send it to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I get it all the time. They want to use carrots and peas are the two biggest ones that I get all the time. And then during the summer, I tell them, you can try green beans. If they got a food processor, they can do it. But I've had that idea in my head for a couple of years, and I'm so stuck on salad because I know how to do it, and it's so easy. I don't get out of my wheelhouse.
This one over here, whenever I was growing, she'd get all my red Russian kale. Mm-hmm. Making them kale chips. Look at how happy she is.
Yep. Those are freaking delicious.
How big did you like them?
How big did I like
the kale leaves? Did you because you said that I sell kale to one lady specifically that makes nothing but kale chips, but she likes the big green curly kale, and then she cuts them up into pieces and do it.
Yeah.
So what you do?
Yeah,
so
I would just chop mine up.
You're talking about like a Toscana?
No, I use a curly kale. Blue
okay.
curly. Blue. Yeah. But anyway, she loves it. I'm sure she would use the Licinto if I gave it to her, but I'm giving her the choice.
Just occurred, if anybody was not in farming and just came across that conversation, we're talking about kale names.
That's what I meant earlier when I said we're a bunch of nerds, but we don't look like it. I love it. But so does red Russian kale make better chips than regular kale?
So red Russians was the big flat ones I grew for you. Then I did this Toscano, which was a longer, wartier
dinosaur,
bubblier one.
Oh, the dino kale.
Yeah.
I think the red Russian was better.
That's what you preferred.
It had a better taste to it.
Yeah,
good to know.
And the size of it, the size didn't really matter.
Save that.
Because you chop it up anyways. So it's
I didn't know.
That's how I chop it up anyways.
But that's why I was asking how big, because sometimes red Russian kale is really good to about the size of your hand. Mm-hmm. Like in a salad. Yeah. Anything over that, it gets very kale tasting.
Uh-huh. Well, and then all my kale was hydro. Mm-hmm. So it was blowing up, dude. It was fast. Mm-hmm. It was a fast crop.
Red Russian kale during the summer is part of my salad mix because it grows so fast and it likes the heat.
And I'll say, anybody who's making kale chips and likes kale chips probably likes the kalier the better.
Oh, wow.
We just invented a new word over here.
The kalier the better.
Look right into that camera and say the kale the better.
Kalier the better. Wow.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to call True Leaf after this. Got a live one for you. All right. I don't even know where to jump off
we went off tangent there for a minute.
I would also say if you do like kale chips, keep them to yourself.
I'm gonna make you some kale chips.
Yeah, we've done
Did
that
I ever
before.
give you some?
Yeah.
You did, and you still didn't like
Yeah,
it.
I was just glad you're happy.
They're vegan and cheesy and delicious.
And by cheesy, she means there was no cheese.
Nutritionally
I think
used.
you're jamming cashew butter on me.
No, it's nutritionally
Dude,
used.
cashew butter's good. It's just so expensive.
Well,
I like almond butter too. It's just so
all
expensive.
right. So I've always talked about my good ideas. You want to hear one of my worst ideas? I
Can't wait.
don't even think you knew about this. So
I've heard some bad ones.
we had a crate maker on the food truck, and in a state of euphoria, I decided it was going to be a fantastic idea. Do you know what I'm talking about? To make liquor infused nut butters in house.
What kind of liquor? What do you put in a butter? What kind of liquor?
I'm glad you asked.
In
So
nut butter.
I tried vodka almond,
How'd
which
that
was
work out?
not good.
Not good.
I tried, and I was so pumped about this next one. Kahlua cashew. Doesn't sound bad.
I like the way it
I about
sounds.
burned a hole in this earth trying to get that Vitamix to chop this up. It was not the right. I know. I was trying, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
but it's not a good idea.
How many?
Because I thought putting that on the crepe and all the stuff we were doing,
How much time did you spend on this?
it was a horrible afternoon.
Oh, just one afternoon?
Yeah.
Oh.
You should try it again.
It's okay.
Well,
There's noon.
it's okay, but it's also a bottle of vodka, bottle of gin, bottle of Kahlua, all those nuts, garbage.
Mm.
So
the point of that, guys, is don't try liquor nut butter.
Or if you have and you have a really good one, send it to Nick Burton.
yeah, I mean,
'Cause we're gonna try it.
I'm a buyer if it's great.
Wow.
I will not be giving my address. All right, moving along. So I do want to talk if we're gonna give people an idea about being the ambassador and things like that. They're going to people get into farming because hey, I don't have to deal with the public and I'm out in the field, and there's that whole aspect of I've never given a speech in front of anybody before. You're a teacher, a little bit different for you, but if you had to give anybody some advice on, hey, I've been asked to give a speech at even just to a few people.
Just the biggest thing is know what you're talking about.
And you don't have to talk about everything.
No, like I'm a very niche farmer. Like I talk about salad, I talk about tomatoes. You ask me about an eggplant, I'll tell you to go look on Google because I don't know nothing about growing eggplant. But you know, it's obvious until you do it. Like knowing what you're talking about is the most important thing. I can stand in front of, like I feel like I could sit down with JM Fortier and have a conversation about growing. Like that's how confident and comfortable I am with growing. And as far as like being able to stand up in front of people, you know, the first time I did it, I didn't breathe for like 7 minutes. My wife was whispering, breathe, you're turning blue, breathe. Because I wasn't like just going 90 miles a minute. And the first time you do it, you're probably going to suck.
Yeah.
But after 2 or 3 times.
Look, after about 100 times, you'll have a bad night.
Oh, absolutely. I may be bombing this right now. I don't know.
No, you're fine.
But
I tell you when I bombed the worst is I was at a conference and it was the first time I ever took my wife with me. I'd been giving speeches for 4 or 5 years at this point,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden she's in the back and I'm like, oh man, it was rough.
I did the same thing.
Yeah.
First time my wife
I
heard me
tried
speak.
the whole picture naked thing. It didn't work either. So. but it was hard, man. If you, because you're in your world, right?
Mhm.
And then now George Costanza, the worlds are colliding, and it's just a big mess.
You also
That was difficult.
You also have to remember that you're talking to people that want to hear what you say. Like I'm not talking to, you know, NFL players about farming. I'm not talking about CEO executives about farming. I'm talking about other people that are interested in gardening and farming. So they want to know what I have to say, you know, and I always tell people start off with the bad. Like let them know you're not special. You're just experienced. Like I've lost so many crops so many times. I'm just too hard-headed to quit. I should have quit 4 years ago. I've lost so many crops. And that's what I always start with is, hey guys, I suck. I'm just too hard-headed to quit. And that kind of, once you realize yourself, that it helps a ton.
Well, that's what separates everything out. I mean,
Mhm.
the people that are making a good go of it have made all those mistakes, and you have to make them for yourself.
Oh yeah.
You can listen to this all day long. You can go talk to JM all you want. You can talk to whoever all you want. But until you go through and learn those mistakes financially and in the cold and in the heat.
Yep.
It takes a minute to tick.
I mean, I learned how to grow from my grandma when I was 5. I learned how to farm from Curtis on YouTube. And he would say, don't do this. This is like, he made that whole year-long vlog, 20 minutes a day, to tell us what to do and what not to do. He showed us how to do it. He laid out the blueprint on video.
But you didn't learn to grow in Texas from him.
Exactly. No. And he said, don't do this. And I would do it anyway. The difference is I only had to do it one time to believe him. Like, I almost have to test what he says not to do just to make sure he's right. But, just, you got to learn on your own. That's the biggest thing. Experience is better than any book you can read, YouTube video you can watch, or podcast you can listen to.
What's an assumption you had about small farming before you got into it that you no longer believe?
Ooh, I've never had that question. Say it again.
What's an assumption you had about small farming before you got into it that you no longer believe?
That you got to have more land to make more money. Like that was, because you see a lot of these market gardeners like JM, who had the 10-acre garden. I mean, obviously it was for a billionaire and he was doing a whole closed loop thing. But, I thought you'd have to have 1 or 2 acres to make $100,000 a year. And now that I've done it for 5 years and I've, not developed my own techniques, but learned things on my own from doing things, like I can make a lot of money on a third of an acre, like $70,000 pretty easy, I believe, in Texas, because it's December or January 3rd and it's 60 degrees and sunny. Like we can farm all year round in Texas, relatively easy. So that would be my answer, would be you can make a lot of money off of a third of an acre.
What is the thing you regret spending money on in farming?
That's funny because I don't spend money. Like like we talked about, I've bootstrapped. It's not that things that I don't need, that don't work in my context, like the Jang cedar. Spent $300 on $200 on a used Jang cedar.
Mine.
Oh, I did get it from you. That's right. Wow, that's right. When I come to that house, yeah. And I went and used it, and the first time I hit that 2x12 running sideways, I let out a string of cuss words because I knew I just screwed the poot. Like I just screwed $200.
I appreciate you not calling me back and wanting your money back.
Oh no, I'd never do that. I knew I could sell it for pretty close to what and I ended up did. Actually, Jordan in Granbury from Fruitful Farms, he bought it from me, not for $200. So I think he owed me like $50. But anyway, so everything that you see people use in their context, it works great. But in your context, it may not. Like I wanted a BCS so bad. I remember when I first started, I wanted a BCS so bad, a BCS tractor. And then I made it to my farm and I'm like, the first thing I'm going to buy is a BCS. I'm going to go get a loan. I can get a $4,000, $5,000 loan, buy a used one. And I'm so glad I didn't, because it would have been completely a waste of money for me. But other people, it may be the best investment they ever made.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I mean, desk. I only used it for carrots.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I did it for. I tried beets a couple of times, but I learned that I did not have to plant a ton of beets to get what I needed for what I was doing.
Beets. A few beets go a long way, because beets people just don't have a huge market for them.
Right. If you had the opportunity to tell every farmer in America right now something you wish that they knew from the most ideal customer perspective, what do you think? And then while she's thinking of that, I would like your reaction to that.
Actually, I've got an answer for that question when she's done.
Okay.
I mean, now, like several years ago, I would look at those prices and think, wow, why is that so expensive? But like the more you share your story, like the more you get that out there, the more value it adds. And like you kind of said it earlier, like you said, you don't want people to get that image of that kind of overall straw hat farmer hillbilly. But like, I mean, as somebody,
we're going to get a letter from everybody wearing a straw hat right now, and I'm going to send them right to you.
Okay. Call Carrie at Bootstrap Farmer. I apologize.
Who owns a straw obnoxious hat herself.
I do. I break it out on Nick every once in a while just to annoy him. But like the more we get to hear your story, like I love hearing these stories because it just adds even so much more value. Because like now, if I get salad from you, I'm going to think about how many times did you have to carry a
How much water do you
20-gallon
have to
water
carry?
jug? So like just the more we can get the story out there, like
Which is free to do.
yeah, I feel like that's so important. And the people who are going to spend the extra to get it from you care about that story. We could go get it cheaper elsewhere, but we care about, not only do we care about what's going in us, we care about what you're going through. And like, if there's something I can do to help support that and like make it a little easier, I feel like your customer base would do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is opening a can of worms. Because, I mean, it's funny. I'm thinking about stuff that I did on my farm that we did together. I mean, I hadn't thought about this stuff in years. You said you had an answer. We'll get back to it. Let's go ahead and get your take on it.
So you said, so the exact same question that you told her, but except change it from what the customer would say to what another farmer would tell all those farmers is social media is the greatest tool you will ever use on your farm, whether it's a Broad Fork, BCS, Jang Cedar. Instagram and Facebook are the two best tools you should learn how to use today.
If you tell them where you're farming and serving.
Yes.
Dude, I'm telling you, I bet 95% of the farmers out there do. It's so hard to find where they're at.
Yeah, but
They don't put the location.
nope, they don't put the location. And I did it because I have another side business consulting with other farmers. And so I wanted to be the best, do a good job with them for the advertising. So I ran ads on Instagram so I would know how to do it, so I could tell them how to do it. And you can advertise on Instagram for $10 a day if you want to. I think it's actually as low as $3 a day. And you can target 1 mile, radius?
Yeah.
1 mile in radius. That covers 2 subdivisions in a suburb, like Forney, like where I live. So for $3, $4, $5 a day, I can get in front of 1,000 people. Not only can I get in front of 1,000 people, I can get in front of 1,000 women aged 20 to 60 who follow Martha Stewart and vegans, or I don't know. I mean, like you can
tailor the ad.
Yes, you can tailor it down to the exact people that you want to. And that is the greatest tool you will ever have. So, and I don't want to go off on a tangent. Everyone listening, I love farmers markets. I think they're amazing for people. Nothing against them. But as a farmer and a producer, the last thing I want to do is spend my entire week growing, taking care of, harvesting on a Friday night, 3 a.m. on a Saturday morning, get up to go to a farmer's market, and at 7:45, a storm blow in for 2 hours and nobody shows up.
It happens.
It happens all the time. There's 2 farms that I follow. Both of them are closing up shop because they literally had like 20% of the days to be able to sell at a farmer's market. 20%. The other 80, the weather blew them out.
Well, in the other 80, you're competing with soccer and parades.
Yeah, exactly.
And this and that and the other.
So,
and look, I love the farmers. I
do
had a
too.
great time. But the first season, I didn't have to do it. It was pretty amazing.
So I always tell people, and that's the first thing new farmers ask. I need to find a farmer's market. I'm like, well, let's think about this. How about you, instead of doing all of that to maybe sell something at a farmer's market, how about you do all of that and go to one neighborhood and spend from 9 to 12, which you would be spending at a farmer's market, delivering to 2 or 3 neighborhoods just down the road and getting that customer base built up that way. Because it's already sold. It's guaranteed sold instead of hoping they show up.
The other thing I want people to realize when you talk about kind of getting into the cost of acquiring a customer, right? What's the year-long value of that customer? For us in the Salad Club, we figured up that it was between $850 and $1,000 a year. Like if you never skip the salad, and if you did a couple of add-on items throughout the year, you're going to be worth about $850. So if you're spending $5 and you get one, that's a great return.
And it's not for a year either. Those people.
I
know on your math you have to do that.
Yeah.
But I've got customers that I've sold to for 5 years now.
80% of the people that started with my lunch club day one, when I ended it, were still with me.
Mm-hmm.
And that other 20% was this constant revolving door that I never worried about.
Right. And let me ask you this. Of those, let's say you get Jenny, that you got a new customer. And she says, and you have too much. You'd send her a text and you say, hey, you got a mom, your parents, if you know anybody, let me know. I've got way too much this week. And they will be more than happy. Now, what's the chances of her telling 3 people? Now, of those 3 people, you're probably going to get one of those as a new customer every single week or every other week. I just get so, not frustrated because I understand why, but there's so many more ways to sell to the public than just a farmer's market. Maybe use it for 1 year and just tell them, hey, I'm, at the end of the year, I'm not doing this anymore. Maybe you build that customer base through a farmer's market, and then you transition into a delivery system.
I'm going to read you the title to the next podcast that we're doing, not for this channel, but for the Bootstrap Farmer Market Gardener channel. It's we're looking for market opportunities for small scale growers. That's all we're covering in this next hour. Not on this channel, Bootstrap Farmer Market Gardening channel.
So just take what I just said and clip that to that, and I'm going to go ahead and go on.
No, you're buckling in because we're gonna get nuts on that one.
Well, until you even said like take the time that you would be at farmer's market and use that time to deliver. Like I wouldn't have thought of that until you said that. Like that clicked, that because I was like, well, how much time is it taking you to deliver? But how much time are you sitting at a farmer's market? Like that's a really good.
If you deliver, it's a guaranteed sell. Yeah. That's guaranteed. And people say, well, we'll talk about it more in the other podcast, but people then they start giving you reasons why.
Dude, there was the only thing you could do is skip. There was no, hey, sign up for our summer CSA, sign up for our winter CSA. Just you're signed up, you're gonna get this thing come hell or high water, unless you're going on vacation. And most of the time, they didn't even tell me that either.
Yep. Well, I always tell this story just to wrap up this segment, if you want to. Is when it gets hot, I lose salad for 4 or 5 weeks. Usually the tomatoes go dormant. Everything just sucks at 109.
But that's also the time the teachers are out of school and you're not delivering to those schools anyway.
That's and it's my vacation. That's when most people take vacation in the winter if you're a farmer. I take vacation in August.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that I deliver to, most people spend anywhere from $10 to $15 a week with me. I tell them, hey, I'm shutting down for a month. It's just too hot. Nothing's growing. And I'll turn your ACH debit off. I'll call them, get it all that done. Like, oh no, leave it on. Just it's like $30.
People
don't
want
worry
to
about it.
support you.
Like they don't even blink. Like, just leave it on. I'm like, are you sure? I really appreciate that. That helps me out a ton. Thank you. Like, it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it at all. So like you said earlier, like people want to support farmers.
And what would happen if you said, hey, going on vacation, usually we shut it off. Would you like to invest into the farm for some infrastructure? I bet that number would go up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I have that. I have that in my pocket. Like I won't use that until I need it.
Pull it out, Holmes.
But I don't need it right now.
Right.
So like it's going to happen one day. A tornado is going to tear down I'm going to get hit with some damage. And that'll be the text. Hey guys, I'm really sorry to do this, but if you want me to continue to produce, like get you the good fresh stuff that you've grown to love over the years, that storm destroyed my 3 tunnels. And if I don't get some outside help, I don't know that I'll get to keep growing. And I guarantee you I'll get it paid for a week. Just because they want to.
No doubt. All right. Given the fact that we got to go so long tonight on the other podcast, I do want to wrap yours up with, we did ask people on social if they had any questions. I'm going to read you the questions.
Okay. We're going to do rapid fire.
I don't know if it's going to be rapid fire. I'm not putting a time limit on it.
Okay.
Let me see where we're at. Question 1. What is the growth plan like for this year? How are you going to maximize your space, love your setup, clean rows, borders, etc.? I got a few from your buddy Clark's Greens. Thank you.
That dude's awesome.
Thank you for asking the question.
Growth plans, I don't, as far as, if it means like expanding growth wise, I'm not expanding. It'll be half cover crop, half, vegetable production.
You don't find contentment much these days, and it's nice to just know that you're happy with where you're at.
Well, I don't want to stress. Like farming is the least stressful thing in my life. And I always said once it becomes stressful, I need to reevaluate, because like the money's great. I love the money. I can always use the money, but I'm not at a point where and I completely understand some of these farmers, they're trying to, this is their only job. And I thank God every day that I have another job that I don't have to count every single penny with the farming. Yeah, with the benefits and the retirement and all of that. And it's funny, not to bring up a completely different subject, but the number of new farmers getting into farming are retirees or people going to retire.
Preach.
And I tell them, it's not easy work, but you're not digging ditches. I mean, unless you need to do one for drainage. But I mean, like, it's not the hardest thing in the world.
Right.
You know?
And you can hire that out.
Yeah, you got a grandson. I'm sure somewhere.
That one got me.
A neighbor's kid that needs $20. Well, 50 nowadays, but.
All right. Next. Dang it, man. Next question. If you could add one crop and grow it really well that's not on your list, what would you grow?
That's easy. Celery. I would do anything if I could grow cut and come again celery, like just harvest the outside.
Right.
Well, I don't even know what you call them. Stems?
Stalks.
I see people do that. They do it mainly in the north. I haven't seen many people in the south be able to do it. That's one thing I would love to be able to grow is cut and come again
Are
celery.
people asking you for it?
No, because I don't offer it. Like, people don't ask me for stuff that I don't like. They ask me for salad, tomatoes, carrots. Like, they ask me for stuff I've already given them. I don't want to keep it that way. Like, I don't want them to think
Right.
this is like order what you want.
This was a 2-part question. What crop would you love to cut but stays because it's popular?
Carrot.
Man, hating on them
I
carrots.
hate carrots so bad.
All right. Okay, I feel like this question somebody knows you pretty well. Is it true that if you park in a small parking space and
God.
people tell you not to worry that nobody's going to hit your car, and then in fact your car does get hit, what do you do in that situation?
You call the guy that said it's okay to park here, and you cuss him for 20 minutes on the phone.
You handled that very well.
I think I did.
We've had some good times, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't one of them.
Yeah, parking on Lower Greenville's tough.
It's okay, Bill. It'll be okay. You'll fit. You'll be fine.
Well,
Walk
we
out.
circled this parking lot for a long time.
Yeah, and then you got tired of circling. You said, "Here, park here, Bill."
Yeah.
You told him to park there?
Yeah.
Of course it was Nick.
I come out and I have a note on my car. Hey, sorry I hit your car. Let me know if there's any damage. And I look, and there wasn't any damage, but she had hit my wheel. Not my fender, but she had hit my wheel. And I'm like, God, please don't mess up like my alignment or
This
my
is the
wheel.
same car I had to sit in the back seat because the front door wouldn't open or something.
No, the front door opened. I got T-boned. Okay, in my car. Shut up, Nick. I got T-boned in this.
I'm moving
in this
on,
car.
moving on. Nobody cares.
And the car door opened. The seatbelt wouldn't. The airbag came out, so the seatbelt wouldn't come unlocked. It was permanently locked, so he couldn't ride in the front because there wasn't a seatbelt.
So it didn't matter if his car got dinged. All right, moving on. We're getting some flowers here. What I've enjoyed so much about Michael is his willingness to share and nurture others in small farms like mine. I would love to hear him talk more about his goal of raising up lots of small farmers or homesteaders around Dallas and the Fort Worth Metroplex. This is from Giving
Gardens.
Yes, thank you.
That's Cindy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a hard time with consonants and vowels.
So she's a lady that I helped start a. Well, she already had a good sized garden, but she wanted to add in tunnels and really upscale it, size it up. So I helped her. She's been amazing. She's still delivering tomatoes to the food pantry. She doesn't sell anything. She donates everything to the food pantry, and that's like her. That's her free time. That's her hobby. She wants to grow as much food as possible and give it to the food pantry. So, like, to answer her question is to create more people like her. I've always said, I got misquoted in one of the articles that made me sound like an idiot because the lady said that I wanted to be the reason why Walmart can't sell produce. I'm like, I'm at a third of an acre. I know I'm never going to be the reason why Walmart doesn't sell produce.
Look, that's a valuable lesson because you will get misquoted.
Oh, I did.
Period.
And that's the front of every time they run that story on Yahoo, MSN, Google. It's always the same quote, and I just get roasted in the comments. Like, you can't, take out Walmart with a half acre.
Other lesson: don't read the comments.
I quit.
Dude.
I did. I got to like the 7th one, and I was like, I can't. My blood pressure's going up. But anyway, what I said was, I hope there's 100 farms in the Dallas area that one day, the regional guy for produce section at a Walmart meeting says, why is our sales so low at, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area? And then another guy stands up and says, because they all buy local.
But it takes 100 farmers plus.
It takes, it'll take at least probably 200 or 300 to even put a dent in it. But I don't understand why. I mean, I do understand it. It's money. You know, people don't give up that land. You know, it's hard to find land in Dallas. But that's a whole nother podcast. But that would be my goal. Like that's my ultimate goal. In 30 years, there'd be 100 of my farms. And you know, maybe they name an elementary school after me or something.
Dang it, man. You know, I also think that you need people like you. You need people that within our circle that other people are just starting out to point to and go, oh, somebody's making it. Not the way I was going to do it, but somebody has made it. And I listen to a lot of comedian podcasts, and one of the things I like about that community in particular is you're sitting there with somebody that you've come up with, and if they get a special, they're like, that's something, okay, I know this is real. I know this is something that can happen. I know I can grow in Texas, and it's hot, and there's a drought, but Michael Bell's doing it. I can do it. I can figure it out. Yeah, he doesn't have water and he can figure it out. So that's you've got to have people to point to go. Yeah. How do you decide to scale up to a second hoop house?
So that's an either or question. If you're a commercial grower, you do it when you can afford it. As soon as you can afford it, you add another hoop house, in my opinion.
For all the reasons we just talked about.
Yeah, the hoop houses are the greatest invention in small farming history.
Last question. Isn't it though? Last question. Worst storm and what damages have you sustained?
That's a great question. I think people who don't understand hoop houses, or I'm sorry, not understand, has never had a hoop house, do not understand how sturdy they really are. I mean, yeah, it looks like a bunch of metal pipes with some plastic, which if you say that, it sounds pretty rinky dinky. But I had a tornado hit an Amazon plant less than a mile from my farm, tore the roof off of it. I mean, just destroyed this Amazon plant for about 3 months. And I was watching it on the news at my house. And I was in tears, like, babe, my farm's gone. Like, that's less than a mile. So the storm, you know, Texas storms, they move in and they move out real fast. As soon as that storm passed me, I drove over there. I was going down the road real slow, like just wanting to see it, but not wanting to see it. And I get up there. Every single thing's perfectly fine. There was nothing wrong with anything. I don't have issues with wind, and there's a couple of reasons why with the tunnels, which you can find on YouTube how to stabilize them. You know, y'all have great stuff to make them sturdier. But the only issue I have is the water coming off the tunnels. If you could ever invent a gutter system for those tunnels, it would be a game changer for so many people.
For us, it all comes down to gutter system, great, but still, where does that water go? You still have to address the drainage.
So you put it at the end of the tunnel. But the problem is, see, I don't have a problem with that. Like, I can fix that problem. It just goes at the end of the tunnel. My problem is the water comes off, and unless you have a good foot deep trench for it to go in, it ends up going in your beds. And luckily I've got, you know, wooden beds, so it does help. But then it just ends up in my tunnels too much. That's the only complaint in the world I have about the tunnels is I can't do anything with the water. Like, now, if it's a rain, no big deal. But, you know, we get flash floods, you know, what they would classify as a flash flood. We get a half an inch in 30 minutes. And then that's when I have my issues, because it just starts getting in my tunnels. I found a guy from, I don't know, have you ever seen the video from Iowa State? The guy that put gutters on his tunnel? It's an old video. He's dead now. I know that because I called him. I called Iowa State. I actually swear to God, I called him and I said, "Hey,
I want to know how the hell you called a dead man." But
I called Iowa State. I said, "Can I speak to Professor whatever his name was?" And he goes, "Oh, sir, he died 4 years ago." Oh. I said, "Is there anyone that knows anything about gutters on tunnels that worked?"
Sorry for your loss.
And he like, no, he was here for his whole career, but we don't have anyone that really worked underneath him. I cussed a lot. I was like, "Okay, thank you," and hung up.
You cuss them, or is this?
No, I cussed after I hung up.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the answer back to the question. Water's the only issue I have with the tunnels and weather. And just to tell you, hail has never busted my tunnels, and we've had massive hailstones.
There you go, folks.
And they've never gone through that plastic.
It's neat, isn't it?
I still don't know how. I don't know how it's so good, but yeah, it works great.
Because it's designed for it.
I know, but it's still plastic. Like you hear plastic and you just don't think about it being able to withstand golf ball size hell.
Proper plastic wheel.
Sounds like a t-shirt. Proper plastic wheel.
That's yeah. Yeah, easy.
Yeah.
All right.
Both of you.
Yeah, she tries to act all nice, but we know. All right. I forgot to read the comments from your page where you reposted this. Tanner Farmstead, going to be a good one. You've always been generous with your time. Super helpful. I remember talking to you back in 2019 about urban farming and didn't know a dang thing. I commented on a Facebook post and it said you said you could run a farm with only a nickel, which you've proved today. You're the ultimate bootstrapper. Thanks, bro.
Dude, that guy's awesome, by the way. He's got like a YouTube page that blew up. He had a couple videos go viral and got millions of hits. And now his YouTube channel's got tens of thousands of followers and he's got a great farm. Love that guy. Super happy for his success. Yeah, make sure you read all those comments before you read them out loud because I got some friends that are kind of like you. So,
all right. Well, all the rest of the questions are just in support of you, which goes to you cultivating this community, especially around DFWs.
So before we leave, I've got a question or two I've always wondered about, like the bootstrap farming, and mainly because y'all are y'all always coming out with new products and great products too. How much has it grown? Like, not your business, but how much do you think the industry of small scale farming has grown in the last 5 years? Like, if there was one person that was doing it in 2018, how many people were doing it today, you think?
That's a very elastic answer. So if one person was doing it in 2018, 25 people or more were doing it June of 2020. And just like anything else, people hop in, they hop out. I would say it's back down to 4 or 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because when we were faced with the pandemic, people didn't know where their next meal was going to come from. It was the first time Americans had seen a line at the grocery store, a run on food. Nobody knew what was going to happen. There was so much uncertainty that the default thing to do was to make sure you could feed your family. So a lot of people hopped into it. We were not ready from a customer service standpoint. You weren't here, but I mean, if in the busy season we would get 100 phone calls a day, probably went up to 300 or 400, and it's people like, how do I start to grow? They just called. We're not going to look anything up. It's like, I went to the store, I couldn't buy bread, I need to grow my own food. What do I do?
Right.
And so I'm hoping a lot of people took the lesson away that the time to prepare is not at the time that you need it, which is why we've always valued pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, learning skills over almost anything else, learning how to learn. That's all very important. But as far as small farming and anything, given your example, if there was one, we have definitely seen a growth, and we've definitely seen it scale down. And to our point today, we still see so much potential on the horizon. That's why we're still so thick in it and coming out with new products. You see the products that we're coming out with this year more geared towards farmers at a higher scale with some of the stuff that you'll see even this month come out. But it comes and goes. And everything's cyclical. You'll see a bump every election year kind of thing as people on both sides think whatever they're going to think.
So to piggyback on that, where do you see it in 10 years?
I think that the people that are going to shine are really going to shine, and they're going to continue to inspire people that are still holding on to the security of their job. You're going to see a lot more retirees come on that they're looking at this.
I completely agree with that.
So I do think more is going to come on, and I do hope that conversations like this, and you see other places, they're going to go, you know what, maybe I will niche down to carrots. And so instead of becoming a market gardener in a general practitioner sense, that I'm going to start a carrot farm, I'm going to start a jack-o'-lantern farm, and I'm going to have events, or I really care about this particular cuisine, and from a cultural standpoint, there's a lot of my immigrants in that particular area that I'm just going to serve them. I think this constant niching down and over and up is going to take more prevalence. And so kind of to your point, I don't think a lot of people are going to go full on bore, but is it going to be a side income? Is it going to be the retirement income? I hope so. And I think that, to me, at least, that's where I see the most opportunity, not only for us as an equipment company, but for the carries of the world that are relying on, you bought from me, but you made your rounds to the farmer's market, you bought from everybody. So there's so much room. Cut flowers is going berserk.
Oh, that's crazy. Look, one more question I've been wondering. How many farms do you see, or just comment on it, about agritourism on farms like Megan has in McKinney?
Yeah.
What's the name of her farm? I can never remember it.
Pure Land Organics.
Yes. Like she is
perfect.
Like killing it.
We had her on a couple of years ago. She's good for, she's awesome.
I love that lady. She's amazing. The reason why I ask, I feel like I'm missing out on something. And I haven't figured out exactly how to incorporate it. But being a teacher, like, I think there's a spot in there for field trips and something more than just.
I know you. Like, okay, I know
farms.
you. I know your farm. I know your situation. I think you in particular are better suited having people come out, other farmers come out to learn that way.
Right.
I think it's also more valuable that you go to them and kind of teach that way. From an agritourism standpoint, and I talked about it earlier, Carl and I were talking about if I had to do a farm over, by far it would be centered around agritourism, not just from the farm side though, but from an event space, from an entertainment venue, from a meeting house, from something that's going to span year round and even out those sales. But you have to have the space, you have to have a commercial kitchen, you have to have proper parking and facilities and all that.
The startup cost for that would be
startup costs are immense, but the
think.
return is also immense. And there's a farm locally that just sold for well over $1 million that they would walk the farmer's market, talk to everybody. They built the thing, they did it right. They were going to pass it on to their kids. Kids moved off, didn't want to come back, and they sold that thing and they made great money.
Cool. All right. Well, those are just a couple of questions I've been wondering to ask somebody like in the industry.
There is no limit to opportunity, I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to take a lot of creative people doing a lot of creative things. I think it's going to be setting up the proper business structure with their partners, if they have any, being more involved in the community. It's not a farm unto itself alone out there. It's a farm making something for their community, working with other people inside of that local food economics. That's going to take everybody to the next step, and everybody will push each other at that point.
Yeah.
So
try to one up the next guy, which is a good thing.
Friendly competition is great.
It's always a good way to make your farm better, is to compete with another farm.
But when you're ready to put your carrot seeds out, that's when you have your field trip for the kids and you make them put the seeds out.
Yes, that's a great idea.
There you go.
We're only selling tickets with people with little hands.
In fact, the price of your ticket is to plant 1,000 carrots, and then you're good.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I love you, brother. Thank you for everything.
I really appreciate y'all. I appreciate the company. I appreciate everything that y'all do. I'll do anything y'all ever need me to do.
No doubt. All right. We have a lot more to come. Take a look at the next episode. Should be dropping around this time. No guarantees on that. We're recording a lot, but we are going to record with Carl Binger and finish the conversation that we started about looking for market opportunities. There'll be a lot more talk about this on the Bootstrap Farmer Market Gardener channel. Subscribe, check it out, leave a comment below. Thanks so much.